This is TWiT.
We're in a moment of a pause, but I think the prosecution by the FTC and antitrust prosecutions of Google and Facebook are about to get back underway once, the everything else settles. They're not off the hook by any means. Do you agree? This is not something that is going to be dropped. Not in the EU either, right?
I don't think so.
Certainly doesn't seem that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Louise,
it seems like that.
Go ahead, Patrick. Go ahead.
It certainly seems that there is something to be discussed and fixed and legislated, and a few things actually. The difference is now we're probably going to be able to understand what is being said and why these things are being said most of the time. But yeah, I don't think the discussion is going to end because of the change of the administration.
Yeah,
there are new problems that have arisen in the past decade, I would say, and those need new societal consensus and discussion and probably some form of legislation. And that, I don't think that's a bad thing. We need to understand the issues and get on the same page on how to deal with them. And there are many of them. So
Europeans seem more willing, perhaps, to regulate big tech. Here in the U.S., because they're American companies, for one thing, there's a bit of division of opinion on this. Louise, where do you come down on this?
Yeah, I think the question is, are we going to see meaningful discussion of this? I think there's a lot of news stories and there's going to continue to be clashes between governments and big tech, but I don't know if any of the big questions that definitely do exist are actually going to get addressed very soon. I do think that these antitrust cases are going to proceed. You're seeing a very similar theme in China where they're going after their tech giants and wondering if there are, market questions there. And then there are a lot of speech questions and there are privacy questions. And I think that neither of those have really been approached in very thoughtful ways. The EU tried, I think, with GDPR, but there's still lingering questions there. The US needs a privacy law. Is any of this going to happen soon? I don't know. This week, I felt a lot, the last couple of weeks, I should say, I felt a lot of PTSD from 2017 in Charlottesville. It seems like, we really didn't learn a lot of lessons from that. And you saw the same sort of a hammer coming down on some of these long-time bad actors, but suddenly the platforms decided they were too bad. So the question is, are we going to be proactive now, or is it going to be another thing where something really horrific happens and then we sort of decide retroactively, okay, that was a line? I don't know. I see these things sort of repeating a lot, and it's very cyclical at the moment. I hope there's actually some progress.
Yeah, it seems like U.S. politics is very cyclical, so maybe that's what it's reflecting. Willow Ramus, writing at 1-0 on Medium, says, how could Biden reshape the internet or not? There are two schools of thought. One recalls the Obama administration's cozy relationship with Silicon Valley, notes Kamala Harris's ties to companies like Uber, points out Biden's reliance on tech allies as advisors. And so that contingent says, it's going to be easy for big tech over the next 4 years. But and by the way, big tech's lobbying is been pretty aggressive, and I think we'll get even more aggressive in 2021. But there has been a lot of momentum, as he points out, for regulating big tech. Biden himself was, expressed skepticism on Section 230, and there's a lot that Biden could do. In this view, Oramus writes, the Biden administration is poised to enact sweeping reforms on multiple fronts. A federal online privacy act. Of course, he's replaced Ajit Pai temporarily, at least, with Jessica Rosenworcel, who is a very good FCC commissioner who is very much pro net neutrality. But gig economy workers, Prop 22 passed in California. Uber and Lyft, against Uber and Lyft's expensive campaigns. A rework of Section 230 could be in the works. Antitrust legislation. So it's kind of unknown where we're going here.
Really, the issue is that we don't really know what to do. We know there are issues in, things like free speech, in the gig economy, in the monopolies of these companies. But free speech, you don't know where to put the line and how to enforce it. The gig economy, we know, it's fairly clear that they're not employees and they're not completely independent either, but we don't know what to put in a third type of status. And same with the monopolies. We, as you say on this show very often, we don't know what to do. Like, breaking them up is not going to fix the issues that we have. So I think that there's a lot of people that need to start thinking about, before saying we need to regulate, almost on a philosophical level, how do we fix the issues that were introduced by these society-altering models that were created in the past 20 years thanks to the internet, the disintermediation, the fact that everyone has a voice, et cetera, et cetera. And the reality is no one knows what to do, and that's not a bad thing. Like, it's obvious that when things change that much, the old models and the old ways of seeing things don't work anymore. So we need to, think about it and hopefully find solutions. But I don't see it as a, the everything is lost, that we don't know what to do right now.
No, it's clear we don't. On the other hand, the EU seems to, Nate, there is pretty aggressive actions already in the EU against Google and perhaps Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, Google, Facebook, Amazon is a big one.
Amazon
Microsoft
too
has been a target in the past, certainly. Obviously, with the Brexit situation that we have gone through, there is an additional question that is over certainly everyone's heads in my country, which is, what does this mean for the UK specifically? Because we aren't necessarily going to have exactly the same relationship with you guys and with US tech companies as the rest of Europe will do, and that we would have done had we not have divorced ourselves from that. And excuse my dog, who that's probably okay. Just going out for his nightly activity. So that's one of the things that I'm particularly keen to see how it plays out. But we're not going to know that for quite some time. As far as President Biden goes, I think what's interesting from our perspective is we hear a lot through the news over the last week about the Paris Climate Accord and carbon goals and things like that. And a lot of the conversation that happens on a tech level or from a kind of big tech level is all very domestically focused, as it should be for any incoming president and administration. I think what's going to be very interesting is seeing what happens in that next step. Like, what is the international message that the Biden administration wants to communicate with Britain, with Europe, with the rest of the world, of course, as I'm sure Louise will have a view on. And that those are two massive unknowns, hugely influential, massive potential impact for good or for bad. But I feel in my waters to be optimistic.
There is an argument that the Democratic Party has moved farther to the left, that there is bipartisan agreement that we've got to do something about big tech for completely different reasons, by the way, but that doesn't mean that something won't be done. Besides Rosenworcel, who is, again, temporary chair of the FCC, or acting chair, Biden appointed Rebecca Kelly Slaughter as acting chairwoman of the Federal Trade Commission. She is apparently very aggressive. She's been on the commission since 2018 as a Democratic commissioner, but she is going to inherit the Facebook prosecution and is apparently very concerned about privacy and big tech. So there may be at the FTC, and she in fact was very critical of the FTC's kind of dropping their Google investigation last year. There may be actually a much more active, much more energy at both the FCC and the FTC to rein in these big tech companies. So there's debate about which way it's going to go, but it's certainly something we're going to end up watching, and I think it's something we're going to hear a lot about in 2021.